Calgary is a vibrant city positioned in the foothills just east of the Rocky Mountains. It is the major municipality in the southern half of Alberta and is surrounded by a resource-rich, natural environment. It is a beautiful city, home to a vibrant and diverse population. However, sustainable development of the city and its communities is a more recent concern. Due to a massive economic boom in the 60s and 70s, the city grew faster than planners could keep up with, leading to rampant urban sprawl across the city. To increase sustainability and combat urban sprawl, approximately 10 years ago, the City of Calgary developed sustainability goals and strategies that were officially recognized in the Calgary 2020 and Municipal Development Plan policy documents. Calgary 2020 is a 10-year vision document released in 2010, setting sustainability objectives for the year 2020. It formally recognized that in order to build a sustainable city, we need to understand that all components of a city are connected. It was created to bridge the gap between the long-term vision Calgary had for itself and its policies at the time regarding sustainability. Calgary's Municipal Development Plan is a citywide planning policy document for the expected growth in Calgary for the next 30 to 60 years. It uses the criteria that Calgary's population will double and put its focus on planning for the built and natural environments. The 6 major policy objectives and goals that came out of the Municipal Development Plan are greening the city, connecting the city, compacting the city, great communities, good urban design, and a prosperous economy. This is where our application enters the picture. Sustainability was created to empower the citizens of Calgary to make changes in their lives and to help create more sustainable communities in their city. The primary goal of this application is to bridge the gap between Calgary's citywide policies and its citizens' engagement. This application allows the users to define what sustainability means to them on their own terms and to evaluate communities in their city based on their own definition. We believe that compacting the city, connecting the city, and greening the city are key areas that individual citizens will have the most impact through making attainable changes in their daily lives. Okay then, welcome to the sustainability app demonstration. So this is by us, and by us I mean the 4 Mapsketeers. This is our submission for the 2019 Esri App Challenge relating to sustainable development of cities and communities. So as I mentioned before, our app is mainly looking at connecting the citizens of Calgary with a way to explore how they can affect the sustainability of their city on an individual level. So let's check out the app. So we start off with our community sustainability evaluation. So this lets people look at different aspects of what different factors of sustainability, and they can choose which ones are most important to them, if at all. And each time they do, the map will change to reflect that. So obviously, the greener the community, the more sustainable it is. And by green, I mean the color of the map specifically, but also other aspects of green space. So how green your community is, number of trees, you can change those, as well as the primary attributes here, the how green is it, how important is transportation, how important is compactness. So everybody will have a different evaluation criteria for their own, for themselves personally. So for me, I really like living in a community with lots of green space, so I'm going to leave this high. In terms of public transit, I don't really drive very often. I'm still a poor student, so turn down road quality, not too important. I'm not very active, let's be honest. But like taking the bus, buses are good. Train, also very helpful. I like living close to businesses, but I'm not a big fan of high rises, so let's turn that way down, and let's just sort of change these to reflect my own personal preferences. All right, so let's see. So watch as we refresh the map. You will see the colors change to reflect the relative ranks. So going in, so we're looking at a couple of different communities. So here, let's take a look at this guy. Winston Heights, Mountain View. So they do not rank very high, at least by my own criteria for sustainability. So 214 out of 306 isn't great. There's not a lot of green space coverage in their total community. Not a lot. The transit coverage is quite poor. 50% is well below average for Calgary. Comparing that to one of my favorite communities and to where I currently reside is Sunnyside, which is a beautiful area, close to the train, lots of trees, lots of businesses, very nice area. So that's sort of how you could use this part of the app. And it's really neat, I think, looking around and seeing, where your friends live, how sustainable they are. You can play with things a little bit to sort of find the sweet spot for your own preferences. So moving on from that, one of the other sustainable features that we want to offer people is sustainable food. So currently most people get their food from the grocery store, and often the food has traveled very far, sometimes from BC, which is close relatively speaking, but Canada's a big place and still quite far away, sometimes from California or Mexico or even South America, depending on the food. But Calgary actually is quite a sunny city, surprisingly, and there's lots of green space here that gardens could be grown. So we are trying to encourage people here to either look into starting or joining community gardens or planting crops in their own, on their own property, or perhaps on a friend's property. So I'm going to go look up, well, I don't want to be too telling. Let's find somebody's house here. So these guys, this neighborhood here has some, looks like they've got some spare green space that nobody's using. So let's see, well, we got this guy's house here. What if he put a garden out in his front yard? So we're going to plot a garden bed here. And you know what, that's quite a lot of space, actually, when you add it all together. And let's see, I like tomatoes. They're nice and fresh. So this is a rather large garden, but if you got the space, so produces a surprising amount of food by the end of it. And another interesting statistic that we get to look at is how much greenhouse gas offset you are potentially contributing. So by growing food locally, you effectively are cutting out food that's coming from farther away, and thus if that food is not being transported to you, it's the same as if that truck had never driven those tomatoes from BC to here. So that's what these statistics down here sort of demonstrate. And then we can get rid of the garden bed, and I can even go in and maybe make a more realistically sized one, like just a small little plot, a couple meters by a couple meters. So even a small garden can potentially produce a significant amount of food, and there's the potential not just for your own consumptions. I don't know if I eat 100 kilograms of tomatoes even a year, but there's definitely the potential to share these with neighbors, friends, family, something like that. Okay, so continuing on, well, we can get rid of that bed for now, but let's go look at transport. How can we make a more sustainable transportation system? So we got our roads here, hanging out in my old stomping ground, Crowfoot Crossing. So let's say, what if I lived here? That's where I live. I work down here in Crowfoot Crossing, maybe doing, I don't know, work at Shoe Company or something, or the theater. Sure, why not? Right there. So it tells me we've got, you can go away there. We've got quickest route which is, that's great. But another cool thing that we get to see is how much, so what's my fuel economy, right, of my car. So 9 is the average, so we'll leave it there. And then if I instead started walking, biking, instead of driving this route once a week, how much carbon am I offsetting? So almost 40 kilograms per year, which is huge. And that's only 1 day a week, assuming I'm working 5 days a week. So let's say instead I jump it up to 5 and I'm walking that instead. Almost 200 kilograms of CO2 offset per year. So that's pretty huge. That's not even talking about how much money you'd save, not, I have stuff to do. Okay, so here we're going to be taking a look at our sustainable housing section. So basically what we do here is Calgary recently legalized secondary suites, and so we're going to take a look at find somebody's house and see if they would be eligible to have a secondary suite. So let's check out Sunnyside again. Let's try this guy. So we look over here, unfortunately for this guy, no secondary suites. Let's try somewhere else. Maybe this guy. Yeah, so in this case, this Hillhurst, as this community will allow people in this area at least to have a secondary suite, which is really good for this guy because he can make some extra rent money.